Have you ever been captivated following Rooster Cogburn and Mattie Ross in True Grit, 1969? But behind those legendary scenes were tragic, dramatic stories of the cast. Some fell into addiction that led to their deaths, some suffered unexpected accidents, and some passed away suddenly. Let's explore their stories and honor the legacies they left behind. Let's go. Dennis Hopper as Moon. Dennis Lee Hopper, born on May 17, 1936, in Dodge City, Kansas. When he was 33 years old, he appeared in True Grit, 1969, as Moon, an outlaw with a wild look, leaving a strong impression among the film's star-studded cast. With his defiant eyes and free-spirited aura, Hopper quickly became an icon of the New Hollywood movement, boldly breaking all the cinematic molds of the time. Dennis Hopper passed away on May 29, 2010, at the age of 74, after many months of exhausting battle with prostate cancer that had metastasized to his bones. He took his last breath at his home in Venice, Los Angeles, and was buried at Jesus Nazareno Cemetery in Ranchos de Taos, New Mexico, a place closely tied to the years he lived as a self-imposed exile after the success of Easy Rider. Hopper's net worth at the time of his death was estimated at around $40 million, accumulated through a diverse career as an actor, director, photographer, and visual artist, affirming a multifaceted yet stormy talent. Hopper's personal life, truly like a tragic movie, was full of scandals and heartbreak. He went through 5 marriages, with many notorious divorces, especially the whirlwind marriage of just 8 days with Michelle Phillips, or the fierce public battle with his last wife, Victoria Duffy, during his final days. Even so, he rose again with brilliant performances in Blue Velvet, 1986, and Hoosiers, 1986, regaining his glory in the 1980s and 1990s. But his freewheeling lifestyle pushed Hopper toward illness, loneliness, and bitter legal battles before his death. His career burned fiercely, but left a bitter aftertaste, sketching the portrait of a genius artist, yet also a soul forever restless amid the dazzling lights of Hollywood. John Wayne as Rooster Cogburn. Marion Robert Morrison, born on May 26, 1907, in Winterset, Iowa. When he was 62 years old, he took on the role of the one-eyed Marshal Rooster Cogburn in True Grit, 1969, a performance that won him the Academy Award for Best Actor. Thanks to his rugged, commanding voice and imposing physique, Wayne deeply engraved the image of an indomitable hero into the audience's minds through countless Hollywood blockbusters. John Wayne passed away on June 11, 1979, at the age of 72, after many years fighting cancer. He took his last breath at the UCLA Medical Center in Los Angeles and was laid to rest at Pacific View Memorial Park Cemetery, Corona del Mar, California, where his grave bears the immortal philosophy: "Tomorrow is the most important thing in life." Wayne's net worth at the time of his death was estimated at around $50 million, thanks to countless iconic roles and wise real estate investments that kept him at the top of the box office for 3 decades. John Wayne's love life was just as turbulent as his Western films. He was married 3 times, leaving behind 7 children. His first marriage to Josephine Science broke down because his heavy filming schedule kept him away from family. His second marriage to Esperanza Bauer was filled with arguments, and there was even a time she angrily fired a gun at him after a rap party for Angel and the Bad Man, 1947, ending in bitterness. His last wife, Pilar Palete, stayed with Wayne until the end of his life, but could not save him from the spiral of illness. After undergoing surgery to remove a lung due to cancer in 1964, Wayne continued battling stomach cancer until he passed away. In his final years, he was criticized for his conservative political views and a heavy smoking habit, up to 5 packs a day, which devastated his health. Yet his performances in The Quiet Man, 1952, and The Shootist, 1976, still proved he was an irreplaceable Hollywood monument, a legend who carried both the glory and tragic shadows within his life. Glen Campbell as Boeuf. Glen Travis Campbell, born on April 22, 1936, in Arkansas. He was 33 years old when he took on the role of Texas Ranger Boeuf in the film True Grit, 1969. The character of Boeuf, whom he portrayed as a proud, determined officer, played an important role in the pursuit of the killer. This was one of the rare film roles for a country music legend, earning him a Golden Globe nomination and leaving a memorable mark in the audience's hearts. Campbell passed away on August 8, 2017, at the age of 81, after a long battle with the cruel disease of Alzheimer's. He was buried at the family cemetery in Billstown, Arkansas, where his childhood dreams had once taken root. Throughout a career spanning more than 5 decades, Glen Campbell had accumulated a net worth of around $30 million, thanks mostly to the success of his legendary hits and various television and film contracts. Campbell's life was a mixture of brilliant glory and deep wounds. Coming from a poor background, forced to drop out of school early to help his family, he turned to music as an escape and quickly won audiences over with Gentle on My Mind, 1967, Wichita Lineman, 1968, then continued to dominate the charts with Rhinestone Cowboy, 1975. But behind that sweet voice, Campbell constantly struggled with alcohol, drugs, and 3 broken marriages due to his self-destructive habits. Only after marrying his 4th wife, Kim Woolen, did he find a bit of peace, although Alzheimer's later gradually stole away his memory, his voice, and ultimately his life. Glen Campbell walked through his life like a restless wanderer, leaving behind an immortal legacy, but also exposing the tragedy of a star who never truly found rest. Jeff Corey as Tom Cheney. Jeff Corey, born Arthur Zwirling on August 10, 1914. He was 55 years old when he transformed into the villain Tom Cheney in True Grit, 1969. The character of Cheney, who killed Mattie Ross's father, was portrayed by Corey with a rough, ruthless, and calculating edge, adding dramatic weight to this famous Western film. He passed away on August 16, 2002, at the age of 88, after long-term health complications. Corey was laid to rest with his family in California, closing a turbulent chapter with an estimated net worth of around $3 million, the result of a lifetime of dedication, not only on screen but also as a teacher. Corey's life captured the tragedy of Hollywood's witch hunt era. Once a talented stage actor, he was unexpectedly blacklisted in 1951 for refusing to name friends before the House Un-American Activities Committee, losing decades of work and plunging into financial crisis. During the years he was shunned, Corey clung to teaching to survive, passing on inspiration to students who later became famous like James Dean and Jane Fonda. When he was allowed to return to the screen in the 1960s, he proved his iron will with roles such as Sheriff Bledsoe in Butch Cassidy and The Sundance Kid, 1969, and Wild Bill Hickok in Little Big Man, 1970. Jeff Corey had a 64-year marriage with his wife Hope, raising 2 children, but the shadow of those years rejected by Hollywood still haunted him, turning his life into a beautiful tragedy, where courage rose above cowardice and fear. Strawther Martin as Colonel G. Stonehill. Strawther Douglas Martin, Jr., born on March 26, 1919, in Indiana. He was 50 years old when he took on the role of Colonel G. Stonehill in True Grit, 1969. The character of Stonehill, a cunning horse trader, was portrayed by Martin with a distinctive voice and a satirical humor, bringing an entertaining highlight to this classic Western film. Martin passed away on August 1, 1980, at the age of 61, after a sudden heart attack in California. He was buried at Los Robles Regional Medical Center, where his death shocked many of his colleagues. During a career spanning 3 decades, Strawther Martin appeared in hundreds of films and television shows, accumulating a net worth of around $5 million, a modest figure by Hollywood standards, but deserving of the steadfast efforts of such a skilled supporting actor. Martin's life was tinged with the tragedy of a laboring artist. Once an excellent swimmer who nearly qualified for the Olympics, he turned to acting after World War II. tirelessly taking on one supporting role after another to make a living. His marriage to Helen Meisels Martin was his only source of balance, but the constant work pressure gradually wore down Martin's health. Even with unforgettable roles such as the cold-hearted prison captain in Cool Hand Luke, 1967, or the bloodthirsty bounty hunter in The Wild Bunch, 1969, he could not escape the shadows of exhaustion and illness. One fateful morning in 1980, Martin's heart stopped after decades of relentless dedication, closing the journey of a supporting actor who gave everything but never truly got to rest. James Westerfield as Judge Parker. James A. Westerfield, born on March 22, 1913. He was 56 years old when he took on the role of Judge Parker in True Grit, 1969. Transforming into a strict but fair judge, Westerfield brought a sense of authority and justice, contributing to the harsh Western world of the film. He died suddenly on September 20, 1971, at the age of 58, after a heart attack that shocked the film industry. His final resting place was in California, closing a journey of more than 3 decades living with the stage, cinema, and television. Westerfield's net worth at the time of his death was estimated at around $2 million, the result of a steady career with dozens of respected roles. But behind the dignified appearance of the Keeper of Justice, Westerfield had to struggle with family rifts after a controversial divorce, which strained his relationships with loved ones. The pressure of maintaining the image of a reliable supporting actor also left him exhausted. Before that, audiences had remembered him for On the Waterfront, 1954, and The Sons of Katie Elder, 1965, proving his excellent talent even though he never reached A-list stardom. Westerfield's early death exposed the bitter hidden side of a Hollywood actor's life, where fame and success could not save a heart already too weary. Jeremy Slate as Emmett Quincy. Jeremy Slate, born Robert Bullard Perham on February 17, 1926. He was 43 years old when he played Emmett Quincy in True Grit, 1969. With sharp acting and a cold-blooded style, he portrayed a cunning, vicious gunman that audiences could never forget. Jeremy Slate took his last breath on November 19, 2006 in Los Angeles, at the age of 80, after surgery related to esophageal cancer. His net worth was estimated at around $2 million, earned from decades of work in television, film, and country music songwriting. Slate's life was not short of harsh twists. After years of fighting in the Navy and then reaching fame in Hollywood, he found himself entangled in loneliness and broken marriages. His first wife left because he was consumed by alcohol and work addiction, and his relationship with archaeologist Sally Binford only brought scandal. The cowboy roles, policemen, or even gangsters on screen somewhat reflected the dark sides of his real character. When the applause faded, Slate was left alone with mental scars that would never heal, finally closing his life journey at 80, carrying both the glory and pain of an artist who once dared to live fully. Alfred Ryder as Gowdy. Alfred Ryder, whose real name was Alfred Jacob Korn, born on January 5, 1916. He was 53 years old when he took on the role of Attorney Gowdy in True Grit, 1969. With a serious demeanor and sharp arguments, he convincingly portrayed the lawyer cross-examining Rooster Cogburn in court, even though he only appeared briefly. Ryder took his last breath on April 16, 1995, at the age of 79, at the Actors Fund nursing home in New Jersey, after battling liver cancer. His net worth at the time of his death was estimated at around $1.5 million, the result of decades of hard work in film, stage, and teaching. Ryder's life was like an ongoing stage tragedy, an actor who had dreamed of becoming the greatest Hamlet of his generation, but who declined after one severe failure on live television. 2 broken marriages, including a painful divorce from actress Kim Stanley, left many emotional wounds and distance from his daughter. On top of that, the pressure of maintaining fame in such a harsh environment drained Ryder mentally. In his final years, he lived quietly with his sister, Olive Deering, carrying the regrets of a talent who had once touched greatness but could never hold on to the spotlight. John Doucette as Sheriff. John Arthur Doucette, born on January 21, 1921. He was 48 years old when he appeared in True Grit, 1969. In the film, he played the sheriff, a symbol of the law with a tough face and a firm voice, creating the imposing aura characteristic of the Wild West. Although the role was not long, it was enough to portray the image of a determined, principled enforcer of justice. John Doucette passed away on August 16, 1994, at the age of 73, after battling a cruel cancer. He was laid to rest at Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, a final resting place of many great stars. Throughout a career of over 280 films, Doucette left behind an estimated net worth of around $1 million, a modest figure compared to his enormous number of roles, but enough to reflect his perseverance and dedication to the craft. Few people know that behind the spotlight of a Hollywood tough guy, Doucette lived a private life full of challenges. Married to opera singer Catherine Sambles and with as many as 8 children, he could not escape the pressure of supporting a large family, compounded by a marriage that went through repeated cracks. Doucette himself also struggled with depression, a dark shadow that often haunts supporting actors, making him question his own worth. After successes in The Sons of Katie Elder, 1965, and his imposing role in Patton, 1970, Doucette still could not shake the feeling of being forgotten by Hollywood. In his final years, he quietly fought cancer in solitude, and then passed away before he could fully look back on his long, sacrificial journey. Doucette's story is a sad slice of life about the silver screen heroes left behind the camera. Edith Atwater as Mrs. Floyd. Edith Atwater, born on April 22, 1911, stepped onto the screen of True Grit in 1969 at the age of 58. In the film, she played Mrs. Floyd, a strong, responsible woman who stood as a symbol of perseverance in the harsh Western setting. This small but deeply meaningful role reflected the grace and fortitude that had followed Atwater throughout her stage and television career. Edith Atwater passed away on March 14, 1986, at the age of 74, after an exhausting battle with cancer. She took her last breath at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles, closing an artistic journey that spanned over 50 years, with an estimated net worth of about $1 million. Modest but worthy of a lifetime of dedication. A caricature portrait of Atwater hangs at Sardi's, the restaurant that honors great stage artists, as proof of the unforgettable mark she left behind. Few people know that behind Edith Atwater's calm exterior were heartbreaks that shattered her spirit. She married actor Hugh Marlowe but divorced after only a few years, before finding a lasting partner in Kent Smith, who stood by her side until the end of her life. Having no children, Atwater once shared that she felt lonely even while constantly surrounded by stage lights. Cancer devoured her during her final years, but could not take away the extraordinary resilience that had allowed Edith Atwater to fully transform from The Body Snatcher, 1945, to Family Plot, 1976. A silent star, a heart of steel, and also a fragile soul. All of this created a one-of-a-kind Edith Atwater amid the turbulent world of Hollywood. John Fiedler as Lawyer Daggett. John Donald Fiedler, born on February 3, 1925, stepped onto the screen of True Grit in 1969 at the age of 44. He played Lawyer Daggett, a calculating attorney, representing order and legal procedure in the chaotic Wild West. With a high-pitched, slightly nasal voice, Fiedler turned Lawyer Daggett into a character that was both a bit cowardly and quite pragmatic, adding an interesting highlight to the film. Fiedler passed away on June 25, 2005, at the age of 80 after an exhausting battle with cancer. He was cremated, with his ashes scattered on Long Island, closing a journey of more than 55 years of tirelessly standing before microphones and behind cameras. Fiedler's net worth was estimated at around $2 million, not enormous, but well-deserved for his unforgettable roles like Juror Number 2 in 12 Angry Men or the voice of Piglet in the classic Winnie the Pooh series. Behind the gentle, shy image familiar to audiences, Fiedler actually had a life that was far from smooth. He went through a long-lasting marriage, but with plenty of tension due to the pressures of acting and health uncertainties. In his final years, cancer wore down both his body and mind, making Fiedler nearly reclusive at the actor's nursing home in New Jersey. Even so, his voice was still beloved through Disney animated films like Robin Hood, 1973, and The Fox and the Hound, 1981, serving as a gentle reminder of a modest yet unforgettable talent. His death, just one day after his co-star Paul Winchell, the voice of Tigger, passed away, made Hollywood all the more sorrowful when having to say goodbye to two legendary voices of childhood in the same week. Hank Worden as R. Ryan, The Undertaker. Hank Worden, born Norton Earl Worden on July 23, 1901. He was 68 years old when he played R. Ryan, the pensive Undertaker in True Grit, 1969. With a tall, thin frame, bald head, and hauntingly high-pitched voice, Worden brought to life an Undertaker who was both quiet and carried a touch of dark humor in the violent Western backdrop. This role helped cement his status as an irreplaceable supporting icon in cowboy films. Hank Worden passed away on December 6, 1992, at the age of 91, while taking a nap at his home in Los Angeles. He was buried simply, closing a journey of more than 50 years of relentless acting with a total net worth of around $500,000, a modest amount compared to the vast number of films he had participated in. Even so, in Hollywood circles, Worden was still respected as a familiar face of the Western genre, thanks in part to his long collaborations with legendary names like John Wayne, John Ford, and Howard Hawks. Worden's life was perhaps no less dramatic than any cowboy movie he ever starred in. Before getting into acting, he had dreamed of becoming a pilot but was rejected from flight school, then drifted across ranches, living off cowboy work and performing rodeos. A horseback riding accident broke his neck, but he did not even know for 20 years, a testament to the hardiness of a true Westerner. Later, Worden found his way to the stage after a chance meeting with actress Billie Burke, who guided him into film, beginning a path tied to hundreds of supporting roles, most of them eccentric, oddball characters that audiences would never forget. Alongside a successful career, his personal life carried many sorrows. He spent many years alone after his wife passed away, struggling with emptiness in the house that had once been warm. People say that Worden, though respected on set, still often accepted meager pay, scraping by in his final years as the roles became fewer. In his later years, he even shared a house with his co-star Jim Beaver to ease the loneliness. Yet Hank Worden maintained his love for the craft until the very end, leaving behind the image of a persistent artist who never surrendered to fate. His life was like a melancholy Western chapter, where an old, lonely cowboy kept riding on, braving the storms and the harshness of the Hollywood world. J. Silverheels as condemned man at hanging. J. Silverheels, real name Harold J. Smith, born on May 26, 1912. He was 57 years old when he made a haunting but brief appearance as the condemned man at hanging in True Grit, 1969. Though just a death row prisoner about to face execution, Silverheels carried a proud and tragic spirit of a Mohawk son, leaving an unforgettable impression in the harsh Western setting. Silverheels passed away on March 5, 1980, at age 67, after a stroke, ending a journey of more than 4 decades of artistic contribution. His remains were cremated at the Chapel of the Pines and brought back to his hometown Six Nations Reserve in Ontario as a way of returning to his roots. His net worth at the time of death was only about $500,000, a number that reflected a bitter truth. Despite being famous, he was still confined by Hollywood to stereotypical native roles, with few opportunities to break through. Yet in the hearts of audiences, Silverheels was always remembered as a resilient face who rose above the prejudices of that era. Jay Silverheels' life was a ballad of ups and downs. Before stepping into film, he was an outstanding athlete, conquering the lacrosse field and even the prestigious Golden Gloves boxing ring. But the moment he stepped into Hollywood, his talent was immediately locked into the rigid frame reserved for the gentle Indian. The immortal image of Tonto in The Lone Ranger brought him fame, but also chained him to dozens of nearly identical roles, making Silverheels many times fall into crisis, powerless against the racism of the entertainment industry. In real life, he tried to lift himself up by teaching acting and founding the Indian Actors Workshop, sowing hope for the next generation of native artists, though he still struggled with financial pressure and the effects of stroke in his later years. His co-star Clayton Moore once honored him during the Tournament of Roses parade when Silverheels could not attend due to poor health, a moment that was both glorious and bittersweet. And then, on a gloomy day in 1980, Jay Silverheels quietly passed away, leaving behind not only 3 children and a cinematic legacy, but also a tragic story of a native star limited by Hollywood who never stopped fighting for his voice. John Pickard as Frank Ross. John M. Pickard, born on June 25, 1913, made his mark in True Grit, 1969, when he was 56 years old, portraying Frank Ross, a righteous father determined to protect his family, but who ultimately paid with his life. Although he appeared only in the opening of the film, Pickard fully conveyed both the strength and the deep worry of a Western man facing a world of injustice and violence. On August 4, 1993, John Pickard passed away at age 80 in a heartbreaking accident when he was gored to death by one of his own cattle on the family ranch in Rutherford County, Tennessee. His body was laid to rest in the family cemetery in Las Casas, where he had spent his childhood. Throughout a career with hundreds of supporting roles, Pickard's net worth was only about $500,000, a modest number for a name once seen across countless American television cowboy series. Pickard's life was like a sorrowful cowboy movie in real life. He married early, seemingly having a complete home, but the sudden death of his first wife plunged him into deep loneliness and depression. Even though he tried to recover by putting all his heart into acting, from Boots and Saddles, 1957, to guest roles in Gunsmoke or Simon and Simon, Pickard could never escape the shadow of loss. Co-stars recounted how he would often sit silently backstage, staring off into the distance, as if still searching for answers to wounds that never healed. In his final years, when film opportunities grew scarce, Pickard was forced to manage the ranch, struggling with financial hardship, and it was that very place that ultimately closed his chapter. A dedicated supporting star, but in the end, Pickard's life stood as proof of the cruelty of Hollywood, where the spotlight could never fully chase away the darkness within a fragile heart. The tragic stories of the True Grit, 1969 cast are not only about Hollywood's spotlight, but also about the steep price of fame. Every actor, from John Wayne to Connie Sawyer, left behind an unforgettable cinematic legacy, but also made us wonder, is fame truly worth sacrificing everything? What do you think about these fates? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to follow for more emotional behind-the-scenes stories from Hollywood.